Well, hello, and welcome to Stop Let's Team Up. We are here for our second episode covering the Pegasus, Project Pegasus. We're going to start the six-part story arc from Marvel 2-in-1, and we're going to quickly get to our first issue, which is Marvel 2-in-1, Volume 1, number 53. It was released on April 3rd, 1979. I was in 8th grade. This was a Roll Red comic in my household, and I traced the Quasar logo. I was tracing things. I was making lists. I was just a nerd, and 2-in-1 was my first comic love where I put together a complete run myself, for the most part. And this arc, oh my God. Such a touchstone. So what's going on? It was cover dated July 1979. It has an amazing John Byrne, Joe Sinnott cover. This is Byrne and Sinnott, the artists on here. They are also doing FF at this time, I think, or they're going to. It's around that time they were jumping in and out. It's written by Mark Gruenwald and Ralph Macchio. Ralph Macchio did the first issue, and Gruenwald was one of the editors. This is edited by the amazing Roger Stern, so no wonder it's so good. It's just great. Colors is Bob Sharon. Letters get Jasper Saladino and Diana Albers. Again, Roger Stern, editor. The covers got Quasar in Zappin or energy bands or whatever wrapped around Ben. He's fighting Quasar, who this is a new character in some ways. Because he thinks that Quasar has a history. I'm a big Quasar fan, especially because of the Gruenwald series in the 80s. It was so good. So this is a 6-part story, and he has a different team up. But the characters kind of keep adding on in layers as we move along the story. It's just, sometimes it's a team up, sometimes they're just both happen to be in the book. Also, Wundarr is here. And so he's in this book. So it's the team up is Ben Grimm and Wendall Vaughn, Quasar. Thundra is a supporting character. She's in the back of Wundarr, he's living here at Project Pegasus. He is childlike alien that Ben has saved, and he sees Ben as Unca Benji. It's kind of weird, but it's also good. We also see Solar, Deathlock, who has a big part to play in this. Operative X, who we find out is someone else. Project Pegasus characters are Janine O'Connell and Myra Wilburn. They appear throughout this. People are mentioned in a lot of flashbacks. S.H.I.E.L.D. is mentioned. I'm not going to go through all the flashback people. We see Nucklo. Well, he's named only. That's the natural child of Robert Frank, the Wizard, and his wife, Miss America. The synopsis, this is coming from the Fandom Wiki, so we're going to use this. The title of the story is Project Pegasus, Part 1, The Inner War. Feeling guilty that he has neglected his adopted son, Wundarr, the Thing decides to pay a visit to Project Pegasus to see if the young man has recovered from his coma since being exposed to the energies of the Cosmic Cube. After passing the security screening, he is granted access and given a priority access card. When he meets Quasar, the new chief of security, Ben mistakes him for the Crusader, an insane Uranian superhero which the Fantastic Four previously battled and thought dead. After a brief scuffle, Quasar reveals that he is really Wendall Vaughn, whose father had recovered the Crusader's quantum bands following his death and gave them over to his son. With the misunderstanding cleared up, Quasar takes Ben to see Wundarr. Along the way, Ben runs into Thomas Leitner, who seems innocent enough but gives Ben the creeps. For good reason, however. Because, after the two heroes leave Leitner's presence, he calls his mysterious employers and tells them his master at the organization called the Nth Command to initiate the next phase of a fiendish plot. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Thundra walking the streets when she runs into a muscle-bound man threatening wrestle promoter Herkimer J. Oglethorpe. Easily beating the ruffian, Oglethorpe decides to offer her a career in the wrestling league which he promotes for. Back at Project Pegasus, Quasar takes Thing to Wundarr's room and explains that since the man-child has been exposed to the cosmic cube, he's a living sponge, absorbing energy, all energy in his vicinity. Even the Thing's own strength, trying to rouse the boy, doesn't work, and so the two decide to retire the night and check on the boy's status in the morning. As they try to rest, Lightner knocks out some guards and allows Nth Command's operative, the cyborg Deathlock, entry into the compound. Unable to sleep, the Thing decides to pace around the compound. Lost in thought, he is unaware that he is walking right into the waiting aim of Deathlock, who is programmed to kill anybody who gets in his way. The story continues next issue. It's a great story. It's a great comic. It was fun rereading it last week, or a couple times over the last few weeks. As you know, my schedule's getting crazy. Some continuity news. Ben is visiting Wundarr Pegasus after he left him in their care in Marvel 2-in-142, which we discussed last time. The Thing was previously Wundarr's ward from Marvel 2-in-1-2-4, where we turned him over to Namorita. I forgot about that, and I had to go back and read that. It was nice. The Marvel 2-in-1 Omnis, not Omnis, Epics, the first three out, and the first Omni's been solicited, which is basically the two the Epics. The first Epic's coming out, but it is basically the two Omnis. So I'm gonna stick with the Epics. So also the stuff with Quasar. There's more in this that they retro continuity some stuff. He was also a member of the Super Agents, which I covered with Texas Twister, El Spirita, and Shooting Star. So it was good. This is just basically, let me just kind of go through it a little bit and give you my take. As a kid, I'm falling in love with Byrne and Perez, who are the artists on this. This is Byrne. This is early Byrne at Marvel. It's him and Joe Sinnott, the same person. He will work on his initial FF bit run when he was working with Wolfman and other writers before his own, who was the inker for a long time, and I think it works. What I also love about it, they ink, they're the team for 3 issues, then Byrne and Day are the in charge for the next 3 issues. Not Byrne and Day, Perez and Day. So with these 3, it's got a great splash page. It starts with, it's also got they're leaning into that this is an epic, and it's got 6 parts. Okay, they're really leaning into it because it's got right before the Inner War, which is the title of it, under the banner on the splash page, says Stan Lee presents The Thing in Quasar. I'm not so sure that Quasar logo. I'm not sure if that was the one that ended up in his own book. And it's got a little circle that says Part 1, and in between a banner says The Pegasus Project. And you have Ben flying the pogo plane to upstate New York, looking cool. And he lands, and we go through that Andromeda strain screening process, which takes a couple pages. That's when he meets Wendall, and it's a nice fight scene. I mean, it's Byrne, man. I know a lot of younger people and people who look back at Byrne. I think he gets a lot of grief for his personality, and I think it's not undeserved. I've read some of the things he's posted to people. He's very opinionated. He's always been very opinionated that, he has opinions on how comics should be, and they're his opinions. And sometimes I think he's wrong, and sometimes I think he's right. I think sometimes he does great. I think he's done some amazing stuff. I think him and Claremont's X-Men is some of the best comics ever written. I think his FF run is okay. I'm doing this from what I've read, which is I'm still not I'm doing a reread, and things have changed. So number 1 would be Lee Kirby. But it would be, there's some rough stuff in Lee Kirby that I still find rough, but they're just the starting points. They're learning, it's a learning curve. Then Burns, and then I got to think. I'm really going to go to. Oh my, I'm really going to say probably the stuff near the end, the Paul Ryan art and the Tom Harris, and I guess it's Savalco. I'm not even sure who writes it, but that era, I think that's some of the best fucking comic. I love it. I love Paul. I love Paul Ryan. I love that era up to pretty. I like it all. I mean, I've not read all the Englehart. Surprise, I will get there, and I've not read all the Simonson. Surprise, we'll get there. It was just during a period where it was spotty buying. So, but the Byrne stuff. So this is really good Byrne stuff, and it's his. I mean, Grunwald and Macchio. Dude, man, Mark Grunwald's a good plotter. I think him and Bill Mantlo, the tragic endings to their careers. Bill Mantlo with his accident and Grunwald with a fatal illness. We missed out on what else they didn't do. And Grunwald wrote one of the best, my favorite run on Cap. Longest running run on Cap, and Swajgan Supreme, and this. These are all better stories than most. And this Byrne art is just spot on. It's great. It's just absolutely great. It's dynamic. The fight scenes are good. The flashbacks are interesting. There are a lot of flashbacks, folks. This is a Bronze Age comic, and there's a lot of exposition. I don't mind it. I think it's helpful because you get context. And I also like one thing about it is the sidebars. How this is written. This could be like a 2.5-hour movie, and would be paced very well with flashbacks and expo dumps. I don't think it would be that crazy because you get the Crusader or Marvel Boys partial origin, and then you get Wendell's origin. See Lightner on his little walkie-talkie, but we're also going to see Thundra, and hers with Herkimer J. Oglethorpe. Okay, well, I'm gonna be a little woke here. I like the character of H.J. Oglethorpe, but I don't understand why he has to be a little person, and why he's got a walking stick and a purple. He's flashy and black and African American and black, and it's that pimp costume. He's a bit of a showman. I mean, he is. He's in wrestling. It's a showman. I get it, but I understand why he's a little person. He is a person of power. I will say this because as we lead deeper into it, like this is. I think it's a misunderstanding. They're trying to show you something that would be in New York. I think, but a white Canadian guy and these other guys from America, I don't know why they picked him to be a little person. I don't think he is a submissive character. I don't think he is diminished by being not normal body type. But it did make me go, why is he dressed like that? Oh, he's a showman. I mean, I understand it, but he's never, I don't feel he's ever a victim. He's in charge of his own world. The problem was, he was going to get beat up, but a full grown man would have gotten beat up by this thug that Thundra stops him for because he's a giant, big guy. He's a big dude. It's very crazy. I had to do a quick edit there because I have men with very small penises and very loud motorcycles that like to go up Monument Avenue in Richmond on Sundays. That, or they've bought the new Chargers or newer Corvettes and they're revving the engine because they have small penises. But that's another story. So, but we get a little flashback to Wundarr. He's stringing Ben's sinks, and then we see, Ben walking around, and we see Deathlock. Also, they reprinted in the hardcover. I'm reading this in the thing, hardcover Project Pegasus, which has all the 8 issues. There was a cutaway of the Project Pegasus instead of a letters page, and that is reprinted in this hardcover. It is beautiful. I love a cutaway of a headquarters. But Deathlock looks really good, drawn by Byrne. He's smoother looking. But Deathlock has been done well and not so well, I think, in some other series. But that's on for the next issue because he is a guest star. But he's a character. I remember reading him in, I guess it was Marvel Presents or Marvel Spotlight when he was first created, one of the science fiction characters they were creating. He is an African. I think the soldiers, his original body is an African American, but he's always decayed. It's just kind of, it's body horror. He's a great character, and I actually think one of the best things about Jason Aaron's run on Avengers was using multiple Deathlocks as tools. So let us move to the next issue, which is issue 40, no, not 40, 54, Ross, 54. Hold on, I'm changing pages so I get some notes. This has a wonderful, wonderful George Perez cover. I'm saying that without looking at the credits in the next issue. But it is absolutely gorgeous. It is, yes, it's a George Perez, Terry Austin. That's why it's freaking gorgeous. When I was a kid and Terry was inking Burn, and it looks so good on him. Inkers are great. And when the few times that Terry Austin inked Perez, chef kiss. It's just amazing. It's a great cover. It's a great cover. It's got Quasar on it. It's got Thing lamenting, standing in the doorway of Wundarr's room. You see Thundra about to fight. I think it's Screaming Mimi. I think it's our future songbird in the ring, and Deathlock standing over a wounded Thing. So let's go over the pertinent data on this one. It is Marvel Comics 54. It is titled The Pegasus Project Part 2, Blood and Bionics. Again, George Perez cover. Released on May 1st, 1979. Cover dated August 1979. The featured characters are Thing and Quasar, not Deathlock. He's the bad guy. He's the antagonist. We got Thundra and Mr. Oglethorpe in the supporting characters. The antagonists are Deathlock and the Grapplers, who will meet Lathina, I'm pronouncing it, Lethea, Poundcake, Screamin' Mimi, and Titania. We also see Nucklo, Nth Command, and Dr. Leitner, the Project Pegasus staff. And here is the synopsis from the fandom wiki. The Thing is wandering the Project Pegasus complex when he is attacked by the Nth metal agent, the cyborg known as Deathlock. The cyborg attacks Ben with lethal force and manages to injure his arm. When Ben tries to appeal to Luther Manning, the cyborg informs Ben that it has been culled of all its organic components and is run completely by an artificial intelligence before resuming its brutal assault on the Thing. When Quasar arrives with Pegasus security, Deathlock flees the scene. With Ben given the care of Pegasus medical staff, Quasar goes after Deathlock to figure out what the cyborg was up to. The damaged cyborg, meanwhile, has traveled deep into the complex and has begun setting up an Nth projector in the radioactive disposal section of the facility. Quasar manages to track Deathlock there and resumes his attack, unaware of what Deathlock was doing in this area. During the fight, the cyborg suffers severe damage to its bodies, even more so when Pegasus security arrives along with a medically treated Ben Grimm. When Quasar hears that Deathlock has activated a self-destruct device, he uses his quantum bands to destroy its body, leaving its head intact for questioning. However, the cyborg has foreseen the possibility and causes its head to self-destruct, leaving nothing behind to determine the cause of Deathlock's attack on the facility. While back in New York, Thundra has begun practicing for her new career as a female wrestler for Oglethorpe and is pitted against a group of female wrestlers known as the Grapplers, Titania, Pancake, Lethea, and Screamin' Mimi, all of whom Titania managed to defeat easily. Back at Project Pegasus, Thomas Leitner has ventured down into the radioactive disposal section to check and see if the Nth projector has been discovered. Finding it unmolested, he calls his leader at Nth Command, who demands that Leitner finish constructing the device himself and to initiate the contingency plan that they have organized in the event of that Deathlock has failed its mission. As Ben and Quasar greet Bill Foster, who has come to bring the villain Atom Smasher into Project's custody for study, Leitner sneaks into the cell of another radioactive menace, the mutant son of the Wizard and Miss America. He awakens the childlike creature and opens up his cell in hopes that the mutant will cause enough destruction around the compound to finish him off. And the story continues next issue. Yes, it could, because this is part 2, and there's a part 3, 4, 5, and 6. The being posing as Deathlock is actually a robot created by Roxxon that is shown in Deathlock Volume 2, number 32. The Thing refers to Deathlock as a robot from the future that was S.H.I.E.L.D. had under wraps. The real Deathlock hails from an alternate future of Earth 7484, as first seen in Astonishing Tales 25, when it referred to as the future in this story. Official Handbook of the Marvel Universe on Alternate Universe, 2005, here where the Age of Heroes ended in 1980s. At the beginning of the original run, Deathlock run, his reality was a possible future that has now been designated an alternate reality by the virtue of the sliding timescale of Earth 616. As such, all references to Deathlock's reality as being a timeline that takes place in the future to the relatively modern Marvel 616 should be considered a topical reference related to the date of publication. Deathlock was brought to Earth 6x6 by Fixer and Metallo in Marvel 2-in-1, number 26, in a failed attempt to assassinate the president in the following issue. Due to the damage done to Deathlock, the Thing brought him to England for repairs in Marvel 2-in-1 28 and turned him over to S.H.I.E.L.D. in Marvel 2-in-1 34 once repairs were complete. That's cool. So I haven't read all those in a while. I've got through the 3 epics, and I'm going to start reading them. Quasar entries, he used to be part of the Super Agents from Captain America 217 to 230. Yes, he is. Mark Brunwald. The Thing recalls the last time he met Bill Foster, which is way back in Marvel 2-in-1 24. Unknown to all here, Foster is dying of cancer. It is revealed in Marvel 2-in-1 58. He contracted an illness during his battle with this Atom Smasher back in BlackGoliath 3. Leitner mentions previous 2 times Avengers battled on Nuklon, Giant Size Avengers 1 and Avengers Annual 6. That's the trivia, all from the Fandom Wiki. I do like the Marvel Fandom Wiki. So let's start. So this splash page, again, part 2, the Project Pegasus, Blood and Bionics. Great title. Ben's walking down the hallway, and he can't, because they live in a universe of no peripheral vision. He doesn't see that there's someone just around the corner coming up. Ben's thinking, nuts. I got to wind up playing solitaire. I can't find a few poker partners in this dump. Narration box, deep within the corridors, deep within the underground corridors of Project Pegasus in upstate New York. And then Deathlock's computer brain is repeat. Query approaches, skin thickness calculated, maser pistol set for maximum penetration. And Ben walks around the corner, and he gets laser beamed, and it goes right through his rocks, and that pisses him off. Ben grabs the hand that has the pistol and crushes the bionic hand and gun, and they start having a fight. And he's about to get capped in the head when Quasar and the security shows up. And then we see him going deeper in. He goes by Wundarr's. He goes by this. He sets a device. And then we get to see Quasar have the fight. When he's battling the machine, he's lost both hands at this point because Ben smushes another one. Just crunches it. He sets off he destructs, and everything's destructed. And then we cut to... let me see if I know. That's, yeah. Oh, the person on the cover was screaming. It's Titania. Yeah, these girls are ladies. God, Ross, you sexist fuck. These ladies are basically the Furies from New Gods. It's barely not. It's so thick. But it's neat. She beats up off Orban relatively quickly. It's a nice scene. I like Oglethorpe. He's kind of funny at times. But I don't think him as as a joke. I think he's just a man who's making a living, working hard. And then Bill Foster. I remember reading this and barely remembering Bill Foster because I was still trying to get some of those early issues of Avengers. But he's great. And I love Nuklon. It's a great issue. It really, really adds on to what went through in part 1. Again, the burn art is amazing. There's so much to say about it for me. I love it. His action, his panel layouts. The appearance of BlackGoliath. Let's talk about BlackGoliath, his first appearance. He's going to appear next issue. I like BlackGoliath. I read his short-lived series. It was okay. He did show up in some Champions, which if the book had gone on, he would have joined him, and Jack of Hearts would have been members. I loved it. I'd love to see that someday. I'd like to see that book kind of come back up. It's a niche, and it wasn't really good. There's a reason it didn't last long, but I think you could have done more with it, with a little shakeup of the lineup. I think 2 X-Men in it doesn't help, and Ghost Rider doesn't help, but there are ways to make it work. So, but we're going to move on to issue 55 because I wanted to get the Byrne half and then the Prez half because this will be the last week I talk today, and in a couple of weeks we'll have part 3. Doing 2 issues at a time. So part 3 is The Thing and Giant Man. It was released on June 5th, 1979, cover date September 1979. Thing and Giant Man, his first appearance as Giant Man. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. Supporting characters, Quasar, Thundra, Herkmeyer Oglethorpe. Antagonist, Titania and Nucklo. And a bunch of the staff. It has got a wonderful Keith Pilar-Joe Sinnott cover, who I guess Pillard's doing some of the FF around here. It's a nice one. We got a new Giant Man logo. I think it's new, but it's the first time we see it for Bill Foster. This one, again, the creative team on this one is Grunwald Mascio, Byrne Sinnott, Sharon, John Costanza is the letterer. Editors are Roger Stern and Jim Scalcrup. Let us go into the Fandom Wiki synopsis. The Thing, Bill Foster, Quasar, and Janine O'Connell, are enjoying a poker game when suddenly the alarm goes off. They all pair off to find which prisoner has escaped, with Bill Foster tagging along with the Thing. Entering an elevator, they find it stopped, unknown to them, by the radioactive mutant known as Nucklo. When Ben's engine arbor prevents him from stopping them being crushed, Bill exposes his identity as BlackGoliath to Ben in order to save their lives. His added strength causes Nucklo to give up the game he is playing and find fun elsewhere. As Ben and Bill continue their search for the escaped prisoner, Ben suggests Bill take the identity of Giant Man, since the name isn't being used presently by another hero. And we're going to talk about that. As they continue their search, Quasar checks on the nuclear reactors and finds they're going out of whack, and realizes that Nucklo could possibly be the cause, and goes and tries and find the creature. While back in New York, Thundra is preparing for her first big match against the grappler known as Titania. Unknown to Thundra, the Titania's employers have passed a needle with a potent drug in it, which Titania uses in the ring on Thundra in order to weaken her enough to be defeated at her hands. Meanwhile, back at Project Pegasus, Giant Man and the Thing have tracked down Nucklo, who has been found by his keeper, Henry Sorel, who has managed to talk Nucklo down. Unaware of this and having his hands wrapped in metal to protect them from Nucklo's radiation body, Giant Man lashes out and the childlike creature into submission, knocking him into an anti-gravity device that renders him helpless. With the threat of Nucklo passed, Sorel berates the two heirs for beating the boy senseless. While in the room where Wundarr has been in a coma since his exposure to the cosmic cube, the man-boy from another world dreams about his past, being the last survivor of his homeworld, his encounters with the Man-Thing and others, and his eventual turn over to Project Pegasus. When he awakens, a voice in his head tells him that the power of the cosmic cube is his to harness, and that when he wakes up again, he will be able to channel its power. Continue next issue. So what trivia we got in this? Not as much. The Thing's arm is in a sling because of the injury for last issue. Also occurring previous issue, Bill Foster brought in the corpse of the Atom Smasher, who died in BlackGoliath 3. Thing met BlackGoliath in Marvel 2 and 124. Foster explains his past history, mentioning working for the Goliath of the Avengers. Yes, he was an assistant to Hank Pym. And this was when Pym was stuck at 10 feet. That's in the issues between like 40 and 50. Pym gets trapped at 10 feet in the height during the Avengers battle with the Beetle in Avengers 28. Bill Foster was tapped by Tony Stark to help him cure himself in 32. Eventually, effect occurred in 35, a year after Foster began using Pym's growth formula to become BlackGoliath and BlackGoliath 1. What Ben tells him is, no one's using the name Giant Man, and BlackGoliath, why are you calling it We Can All See You're Black? You don't need to be BlackGoliath. And Goliath was a bad guy in Hebrew mythology. David's the hero of that story, not Goliath. So Ben has points, and this is I think these are two writers going, let's stop it with the black this, the black that. It's just stupid. It's stupid. The Black Panther, I think it's okay because he's a panther, but Panthers are primarily black. Black Lightning, he's a little exploitation movie, more so than people would think, but he is. So this is Burns' art again. There starts with a poker game. I love that in Marvel 2-in-1, that it was like in MASH and Next Generation, there's always a poker game. And then they split up. And Byrne draws... See, when I was a kid, there weren't a lot of giant heroes. People didn't become giants except for Colossal Boy. It was a power set that fell out of favor. Shrinking was fine. Growing was stupid, I guess. I don't know. But we get to see him grow. This is the first time we get him in this blue and white costume with the G on his belt. It's a fucking beautiful costume. It is so much better than his original one. Could be tweaked if you got rid of the blue strap and did the yellow straps on the blue costume, and made the belt, or just make it blue and yellow with the gloves. It's really nice. I mean, because there's yellow only on some straps that go over his chest and the boots and the G in his belt is great. But it's a good one. It's a little ahead of its time. I'm glad, nowadays we would think about that. I love to see Wendall getting some stuff to do. And then we get the actual event. And she's beat by... Who is she fighting this time? Oh, that's Titania. That's a different costume. So who... Oh, she fought someone else. I got them all mixed up. But she gets beat. Then we get to see some more action with a Giant Man fighting Nuklon. It's a great fight scene. Goes on for 4 pages, and it's burn dynamic fun. We then they get a dressing down deservingly for hitting Nucklo. He's just a man child. He's just beat up. And this issue ends on a cliffhanger, and it's all backstory for Wundarr, getting everybody up to date. You get a panel with everybody he's met, Ms. Marvel and that, Namorita and Christopher, all the people, Uncle Benji, who's nice to him. But you see that he's remembering it. And then you hear the voice of the bad guys in it. You're doing it, Wundarr. The Cosmic Cube is now shutting down harsh. Shutting down all that is harsh, all that can hurt. Sleep now, Wundarr. When you wake again, nothing will stop you. Nothing. And it's great. So that's that one. We're halfway through. It's a great story. I like that it's chapter form. I think ending on an info dump is kind of odd, but it does have the last 3 panels do set up a cliffhanger, as it were. I've seen dodgier cliffhangers on Doctor Who and in other comics, more modern comics. I think some cases when people... Well, no, I'm not saying that. Some people write fine issue to issue and some do not. I think it's a more modern problem. Less so to this. But this was an era where comics were disposable. Comic shops are open. I was working in one for free comics for credit. When all this was going on. I was a little kid. One of the first jobs I had. I love it dearly. Mistakes I made in my 20s and 30s because I was in 30s. I do think of things. I think there was a good environment. It was adults teaching me responsibility that weren't me as an equal, as a friend. And I got to sit around with people and talk comic books. I mean, it's one thing I do this podcast. And if you notice, I'm doing less alone because I just don't find it as fun. But I know everybody's busy. I would love if you're interested and want to come on and have a team up or a comic you want to discuss. I would love for you to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at JSA at Blue Sky. JSA4E, just like I was on Twitter. If you haven't noticed, I've shut down my Twitter feeds for both Gallifrey's Most Wanted and Stop Let's Team Up. It's a shithole. I'm going to be blunt. It's turned into a shithole. It's bad enough on Facebook. I find I'm not going to say even borderline racist, right-wing, fascist shit on my feed. I have to cancel it every day. The number of bots on Facebook I don't really want to quit my Facebook page or Instagram because I have some really great interaction there and a lot of people follow me and I appreciate it. And they did on Twitter. I'm not paying for anything on Twitter. I just cannot give my energy to Elon Musk, and it's just Twitter was this. I met so many great people on Twitter, and it just has gone south. And I'm just not going to. Social media is hard. It's really bad for my mental health. And I'm on it too much as it is, but I try to only be on it for comic books and Doctor Who, which my Doctor Who is paused. It's going to pause until after I'm going to come back when they have new episodes, and then I'm going to come back with that podcast probably being monthly instead of every 2 weeks, and change its scope. So look forward to that. And if you want to talk something Doctor Who, please reach out to me. But reach out to me on Blue Sky or Instagram. I'm there. And I'd like to have you come on the show. But let's get back to this. I love team up books. One reason this podcast exists. I've done fewer and fewer team up ones. When I'm done with Project Pegasus, I'm going to go back and see which title's next. I think it's CC Comics Presents, which will be fun, and I'll pick something out and find a guest. But this is going good. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode. My recommendations right now, I'm reading a lot of stuff, jumping around. I'm a late bloomer to Rick Remender. I'm reading Fear Agents. I've only got up through issue 6. I've got them in the oversized hardcovers from Image. They're beautiful. But I just got his 7 to Eternity in the compendium. It's complete. It's really just a thick trade. But it looks nice on the shelf. And I've got some other things, but I'm not buying anything major for a bit because I've got some stuff coming. And, I'm excited about that. But I haven't read anything super new. I am still enjoying a lot of the all-in stuff and the absolute stuff. Absolutely love it. I'm going to play, when I'm done posting this tonight, I'm going to probably read a little more of what's going on in the most recent X-Men runs, because I am enjoying it on some level. So I want to read the other books. I've read the Gail Simone Stegman book, which I really like. I mean, it's not wowing me, but it's a good X-Men book, so we're good. That's my recommendation. It's a good X-Men book. All right, folks, as always, be safe, be smart, please be kind to one another, and read some comics. Oh, and check out Kirby's Captain Carrot episodes if you haven't. If you haven't, you're bad people.